In a promising follow-up to the major changes we saw in 13.2, where Riot provided a lot of QoL updates to AD carry itemization, Freak has just revealed a preview of some changes that we can expect in the support pool in patch 13.3, with a lot of proposed fixes aimed to help cure the current support meta we're in right now. If you've been paying attention to pro play or what's been popular in solo queue right now, it wouldn't take long for you to tell that we're in a very weird game state at the moment. Lots of ranged champions in the mix right now, enchanters, AD carries, cosplaying supports, Heimerdinger, you name it. Clearly, the current game state has some fatal flaws to it that's allowing this situation to happen, so this fix aims to remedy those solutions. This video will basically explain each of these changes, what to expect in terms of a meta shift with this in mind, how the flow of high level play might also change due to this, and we'll even discuss about how this can change things like draft. So let's start with the changes themselves. As of the time of writing, these changes are very subject to change, so bear with me here, but I'll speak high level about the most up-to-date information I have. Alistar has better sustain for himself with a slight nerf to his healing to his lane partner, his mana cost improvements as well. Braum has better sustain against range matchups. Nautilus has a bunch of buffs that will likely put him to the forefront of the meta with damage and sustain. Pantheon buffs might give him a bunch of attack speed, which will help the jungle Pantheon as well. Pyke's getting some damage on his E and his Q, and Rakan is getting increased damage and sustain on his Q, as well as an increase on his WAP ratio. Thresh is getting a huge bunch of changes, increases to scaling and damage and cooldowns all around, so really good stuff there. So based on the changes, there's a very clear goal in mind here. Feed power and damage back into all of these pick and engage supports, and better reward the ability for teams to be really proactive in their gameplay. Enchanters have always been considered a riskier meta to be in for the viewer experience, and it's been spiced up a bit with all of the weird picks that have been in effect at the moment. But since this is essentially a carryover of the meta that we saw last year, it's about time we really saw a change. This also means that in terms of meta expectation, we'll at least see somewhat of a shift to the more aggressive metas that you might remember for seasons 9 or 10. Very chaotic and high octane gameplay that allowed for a lot of skill expression in teams. While this is the main goal with this change, my main concern is that we're also simultaneously in a meta where there's a lot of very beefy front lines in the game right now. So the end result of this gameplay flow might actually be an interesting mix between these two extremes. In an ideal world, we'll have a meta where both the aggressive backline dive comps and the defensive front to back meatball comps can thrive together. And I think with this change, this is basically what Riot is going for. Understand here that the point is not to undo the changes with the durability patch. This is why supports in particular are actually being targeted just so we can solve the meta in that part of the map specifically. I think the biggest takeaway is that we'll be seeing a lot more importance in early game aggression and securing a lead than before. With these changes, a majority of the pro play pool will push over to either the ranged lane bullies that we're already seeing, or now these engaged champions that just got buffed. No more sitting back in the corner with your Zeri Lulu or Sivir Yumi combo. Teams will long get game-winning advantages before that can happen. I also don't think every single one of these changes are going to hit the higher levels of play, or we'll see a drastic movement in the metagame, and I think this ties well into the conversation around draft. For example, while the Braum buffs are pretty big, they won't alter his overall champion identity and how he slots into team compositions. He's still basically going to function the exact same, and he's still going to be able to do his job regardless, so it's not like teams are going to be one Braum or anything like that. We've got our obvious ones though, like Thresh or not. These champs are likely going to shoot up significantly in priority in draft, and this can really hinder the viability of simply first picking any random AD carry right now and getting away with it. Ashe support in particular will probably get hit quite hard by these changes, since she inherently is so weak to champions that can gap close onto her consistently. I can see champs like Heimer still being pretty strong, since he plays decently well into champions that play into him, but realistically we'll only be able to truly know once teams start screaming with it and seeing what sticks. The main takeaway from a draft perspective is that it's very easy to get punished now if you aren't careful with your picks, and a lot of the safe openers that we're used to seeing are either getting nerfed or will be weak to this influx of buff champions. Thresh, Nautilus, and Rakan will start seeing more play again, and then Braum will come back a bit more naturally as a response to the first two. Combos like Caitlyn Lux, Lucian Nami, Zeri Lulu, or Sivir Yumi are all either getting nerfed or will be weaker because of poor matchups now, so my hunch here is that teams will have to be much more careful when picking up their bottom lanes. Teams might also just default to Thresh and Nautilus openers now and then adapt to the rest of the comp to that as well, as we've seen in metas past. Overall, combining the buffs to these champions along with the nerfs to the slow meta that we've been seeing so far, I think there's a good chance we return to a very dynamic and exciting gameplay flow that facilitates very creative and very hectic early gameplay. As always, hope this video was insightful to you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Stay fresh.